Okay, hello again, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining Dragon Trail International for our last webinar of 2025, which we are holding in partnership with Alipay Plus. Today, we're going to talk about the top trends of the year for travelers from China and other Asian source markets, with never before released insights from Alipay about digital payments and spending trends in the EMEA region. My name is Sienna Perulis-Cook, and I'm Dragon Trail's Director of Marketing and Communications. It's my honor to welcome our special guest speaker today from Alipay's Europe office, Alba Ruiz-Legla. We're going to start off the webinar today with a brief update on some of the latest China travel news before looking back at 8 of the biggest trends and developments for Chinese outbound tourism in 2025. I'll then turn over to Alba to share Alipay's insights on the biggest travel and spending trends for Asian consumers this year in Europe and the Middle East. At the end of the presentation, time permitting, we will open things up for a Q&A session with all attendees. You can ask questions at any time during the webinar by using the Q&A button on your Zoom control panel, and we'll answer as many as we can at the end of the session during the Q&A portion. We will be recording today's session, and later today we'll send all attendees a link to that recording, as well as Dragon Trail's webinar slides, so you will receive the webinar content for your own reference or to share with colleagues. In case you are attending a Dragon Trail webinar for the first time today, I wanted to briefly introduce who we are and what we do. Dragon Trail International is a marketing solutions company headquartered in Beijing, and since 2009, we have focused on marketing for Chinese outbound tourism, working with destinations, retailers, airlines, hotels, attractions, and other travel brands around the world to help them reach Chinese consumers and the Chinese travel trade. Our services include B2C and B2B digital marketing and content creation, offline, virtual, and hybrid events, research and strategy consulting, and market representation services. You can find much more information about our services, case studies of our work, and lots of free resources about Chinese outbound travel and digital marketing on our website, www.dragontrail.com. So let's get started with a few of the latest news stories in the world of Chinese outbound tourism. So first, briefly recap what's going on in Japan over the last month. Following statements made about Taiwan by Japan's Prime Minister in November, the Chinese government issued a safety advisory for citizens planning to travel to Japan. At first, it was unclear what the outcome might be beyond the cancellation of some group tours, but then many Chinese airlines started canceling their flights to Japan for the whole winter season, and cruises are rerouting as well. So it currently looks like we're going to see a very big reduction in Chinese tourism to Japan this winter, particularly during the Chinese New Year holiday in February. This brings a lot of opportunities for other destinations to attract the many Chinese tourists that might have otherwise gone to Japan. The benefits will probably be biggest for South Korea and Southeast Asian countries, but long-haul destinations could also grow market share, again, especially during the long Chinese New Year holiday in February. Next, Russia had been saying that it would reciprocate China's visa-free policy for Russian tourists and business travelers since September, and they finally made it official on the 1st of December with visa-free stays of up to 30 days until mid-September of next year. Searches for travel to Russia on Chinese OTAs increased by 8 times within an hour of the announcement, with bookings up by 5 times. Russia is another destination that could attract Chinese travelers who might have answered, especially for snow sports. Just a few days after Russia's visa announcement at the start of December, Cambodia announced that it will trial a visa-free policy for Chinese tourists from the 15th of June to the 15th of October next year. Tongcheng, a Chinese OTA, reported that searches for flights to Cambodia more than doubled after the announcement. And finally, at the end of last week, Brazil's executive secretary for the Ministry of Tourism was in China, where she revealed that Brazil is currently working on implementing an e-visa system for Chinese visitors, which is expected to be operational in the first half of 2026, which has been designated the Brazil-China Year of Culture. She said that the system is expected to increase the number of Chinese tourists to Brazil by around 30%. Now let's take a look at 8 trends and developments that defined Chinese outbound tourism in 2025. The post-pandemic recovery and development of the Chinese outbound tourism market continues to be fairly uneven, with certain hotspot destinations emerging around the world, while other countries and regions are slower to catch up. Chinese travel has also continued to be mostly regionally focused in Asia, although long-haul destinations have seen more dramatic growth. Until mid-November, Japan was the clear frontrunner, exceeding pre-pandemic arrivals numbers from China consistently throughout the year. It was also a strong year for Vietnam, which emerged as a new Southeast Asian hotspot among Chinese travelers looking for fresh destinations. In Europe, Norway and Iceland have both stood out this year as viral destinations with particularly high growth rates from the Chinese market, while Spain has also pulled ahead of other Western European countries to surpass pre-pandemic arrivals numbers and traveler spending. Central Asia also boomed this year, with growth supported by visa-free policies and a huge increase in direct flights to many countries in the region. Another kind of niche dark horse region that has consistently seen really strong growth from the Chinese market is the Caucasus, where Georgia, Azerbaijan, and Armenia are all visa-free for Chinese tourists. And last, but certainly not least, the Middle East and North Africa has expanded market share with terrific growth rates for countries including the UAE, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Morocco. This was the topic of our November webinar and white paper on Chinese tourism to the Middle East and North Africa, which are both available on the Dragon Trail website in case you missed them last month. Now, I've already mentioned visa-free policies a number of times, and I don't think that we can overstate just how much visa relaxation there has been in recent years for Chinese tourists, and also how positively this can impact Chinese destination choice. This year, we have seen a lot of different kinds of visa-related developments for countries all over the world. First, we have Azerbaijan and Uzbekistan, which were already visa-free for Chinese tourists back in 2024, but they signed mutual visa-free agreements with China this year, which brought renewed positive media attention and supported tourism growth. The UAE has been visa-free for Chinese tourists since 2016, which is one of the keys to its success as a travel destination, and they extended the policy this spring so that Chinese visitors can now stay for up to 90 days. There are also countries that still require visas, but have made administrative changes in 2025 to make the process easier. The Philippines relaunched e-visas for Chinese visitors in November. South Africa launched its trusted tour operator scheme to fast-track visas for Chinese and Indian visitors in February, and India started issuing tourist visas to Chinese citizens for the first time in 5 years, starting in July. New Zealand and Argentina both introduced conditional visa-free policies for Chinese tourists this year, and these are actually somewhat related to each other. In addition to being visa-free for Chinese who are traveling from Australia, New Zealand also waived transit visas for Chinese citizens. This has to do with the launch of flights from Shanghai to Buenos Aires earlier this month, which have a technical stopover in Auckland, New Zealand. Meanwhile, Argentina became visa-free for Chinese who already have US visas. And finally, a few countries introduced new visa waiver policies for Chinese visitors. We already discussed Russia and Cambodia, but there's also Brunei, which waived visas for March, and South Korea, which introduced a visa-free policy for groups of more than 3 travelers just before the October Golden Week holiday. I hope this slide and all of the flags on it can impress you visually with just how much development and progress has been made in 2025 to make it easier for Chinese citizens to travel the world. Now let's move on to traveler behavior. The rise of independent travel was on our list of top Chinese outbound tourism trends in 2024, and it's been a defining market trend of the past decade, so this one really shouldn't come as any surprise. We now have more than half of Chinese travelers who planned an outbound trip this October saying that they plan to travel independently, and just 27% opting for a group tour. This preference for independent travel is even more pronounced among younger generations, with 71% of those aged 18 to 24 opting for independent travel. But despite the rise of independent travel, group travel is definitely still relevant for more niche destinations, as well as for older travelers. The popularity of private and customized tours is another long-term trend. And even when Chinese travelers are joining a more traditional group tour now, those groups are much smaller than they used to be, with 20 people or fewer the new norm. Another trend is related to trip length. We had Chinese travelers taking longer trips in 2025 with an extra day added to the public holiday period for Chinese New Year, as well as a Super Golden Week holiday in October that combined Mid-Autumn Festival with the National Day holiday, and also had travelers taking annual leave on either end of that holiday to extend it even further. While some of the recovery numbers for outbound trips in 2025 during the exact public holiday dates look a little bit muted, we got a better picture actually by looking at a wider range of dates. So for example, Forward Keys data on outbound flight bookings from September 22nd to October 19th were actually ahead of 2019 levels. So we can really see from that travelers were opting to leave earlier than when the public holiday began or come back later. The Chinese OTA Sea trip also recently identified long stays as one of the defining trends in Chinese outbound travel right now. This trend looks set to continue in 2026 since the government has extended Chinese New Year by yet another day for a total of 9 consecutive days off. Mid-Autumn Festival is a little bit earlier in 2026, and it'll be celebrated with a 3-day weekend, followed by 3 working days before the start of the National Day holiday on the 1st of October. It's very likely that many Chinese travelers will opt to take those 3 days in between the 2 holidays as annual leave, effectively creating a 12-day holiday, which will create excellent opportunities for long-haul trips and in-depth travel. But at the same time as longer trips have been a trend, another trend that's relevant for short-haul destinations is special forces tourism, or red-eye trips, where young Chinese pack a whole outbound trip into one weekend in order to not use up any of their limited annual leave. They'll fly out on Friday straight after work and then return late on Sunday night or even on Monday morning and go straight to the office from the airport. The next behavioral trend will definitely be covered in more detail and with more data from Alipay, but it relates to Chinese tourism spending. To be clear, Chinese travelers are still the highest spending international tourists in the world and the #1 spenders in a wide range of countries from Australia to Saudi Arabia. But they are not shopping the same way they used to, and they have become more price sensitive. What we hear from industry colleagues around the world is that Chinese travelers are so willing to spend, but they really expect to get value for their money. Destinations have increasingly been delivering that value with unique local experiences rather than with shopping sprees. I know that Alba will be able to speak much more about this using the Alipay data later on. Another trend that's been developing for some time is the increasing importance and influence of China's silver traveler market. Travelers aged 50 and up now account for around 1/5 of China's outbound market. They have savings to spend, much greater flexibility about travel dates and trip length, and high expectations for comfort and quality. From a marketing perspective, 2025 has shown us the strong potential impact of silver influencers, like the Lama Beijing Group, which partnered with 66 Degrees Expeditions this year to promote polar cruises. With impressive live streaming sales. The Hong Kong actress Cecilia Yip outshone many younger brand ambassadors and delivered Holiday Inn's strongest social media performance of 2025, particularly with one short video where she reflects on turning 60 years old. As I'm sure you know, China's senior demographic is only getting larger, and this is definitely not a market segment to miss in 2026. So now let's finish up with 2 technology-related trends. First is the ongoing dominance of the Chinese app RedNote for travel inspiration and planning. That RedNote actually wasn't called RedNote until January of this year. The app is already more than 10 years old, but it previously went by Red, Little Red Book, or the Chinese name Xiaohongshu. The name RedNote was introduced this year when the app suddenly became the #1 downloaded app in the US, with around 500,000 American users joining before a scheduled ban on TikTok. The TikTok ban has still never gone into effect, and the buzz around RedNote outside of China died down quickly. But this brief incident definitely put RedNote or Xiaohongshu on the radars of more marketers outside of China. At the same time, the app became more important than ever for Chinese travelers. In Dragon Trail's spring consumer survey, it was second only to Ctrip as a source of outbound travel destination information, and it was the top information source for travelers under the age of 35. Overseas travel brands that joined RedNote in 2025 include the tourism boards of Georgia, Azerbaijan, Armenia, Oman, and Ras Al Khaimah, just to name a handful. Finally, we can't talk about trends and developments in 2025 without talking about AI, and this is especially true for China and its travel market. China's DeepSeek introduced its chatbot in January, and this proved to be a real catalyst. All of the top Chinese OTAs released or updated their own AI tools for consumers in the first few months of the year, many of them integrated into DeepSeek. And Singapore became the first outbound destination to launch an AI trip planner tool for the Chinese market, together with Chinese travel website Mafangwo. Chinese traveler attitudes towards AI tools changed dramatically. Our surveys showed a very significant decline in the proportion of survey respondents who said that AI wasn't yet helpful for travel, down from 66% in 2024 to just 26% by September of this year. Those who were optimistic about the technology rose from 5% to 37%, and the proportion of those who said that AI had already helped them with travel doubled. And while AI's consumer applications might get more attention, its role for the Chinese travel trade and B2B functions was perhaps even more significant this year. By the summer, 82% of the outbound travel agents in Dragon Trail's survey said that they were already using AI at work. Dragon Trail launched our own B2B AI trip planning tool in the spring, and we organized the first ever AI-powered China Roadshow for a tourism board in October, using AI translation and automatic note-taking for B2B meetings between Georgia National Tourism Organization's partners and Chinese travel agents. And that brings me to the end of our top trends for Chinese outbound tourism in 2025, and time to turn over to Alba for Alipay's take on Asian traveler trends.
Thank you, Sienna. Thank you to you and to Dragon Trail for inviting us today. And thank you to all of you joining. This is very exciting. I see brands, retailers, hotel chains, tourism boards joining like from all around the world. And I think this level of international global participation really reflects what's happening in travel right now. International travel is back. Asian travel is back, but it's back in a different way than pre-COVID. And I'm very, very happy to be sharing today some of the largest insights and trends that we see from Alipay Plus. So maybe three of the largest trends we see at the moment for Asian outbound travelers. The first one is that travel is fully digital first. Asian travelers book, plan, pay from mobile, not only from mobile, from their e-wallet. Okay, so all the services today, loyalty recommendations, tax refund, payments are embedded in the e-wallet. And this is basically like how the e-wallet's it's not only the channel for paying, but actually becomes also a journey for the Asian travelers. Second big trend we see is that spending is much more diversified. And Sienna just mentioned this earlier, right? How so we see from Alipay Plus how Asian travelers were more focused on like buying and shopping luxury goods before, but now they're really seeking for the local flavor, the local experience, some elevated experiences, the value for money, right? So this is also a big difference from pre-COVID. And the third big trend we see is that expectations are global, but the behavior is local. It means that Asian travelers are really looking for having the same seamless payment experience and the same level of trust, user experience, promotions, that they're having in their home country when they travel abroad. And this is where Alipay Plus plays a very important role because we sit in the intersection of payment, travel, and digital services. And we are not only facilitating the payment for these Asian travelers when they travel abroad, but we are also driving or like boosting spending because we are working very closely with you, with all the merchants, the destinations, to include you into our marketing campaigns to drive, to give you visibility, to really bring the best offers to these Asian travelers to discover them. So I'm sure many of you are very familiar already with Alipay Plus, but I think I would really like to highlight some of these numbers that you see on the screen just to help you understand the scale of Alipay Plus. So Alipay Plus is a unified wallet gateway. We are facilitating the cross-border payments for Asian users when they travel abroad so they can pay with their preferred payment methods as if they were paying in their home country. Today, we have more than 150 million merchants accepting Alipay Plus across more than 100 markets. What does this mean? It means that this merchant accepting Alipay Plus, they accept automatically the payment from the Asian users that are like using these more than 40 digital payment partners. These mobile payment partners are like sometimes wallets, e-wallets, sometimes are also banking apps. And altogether, they serve more than 1.8 billion consumers. So what does this mean actually for the merchants, right? For you, it means that like you by accepting Alipay Plus can really provide the same seamless experience, payment experience that the Asian users are having at home, but also it's an opportunity to work with us and join our campaigns, marketing campaigns to really boost spending and again, give you more visibility. And this means increasing the ticket size. It means better inclusion, and it means also higher conversion at the point of sale. Now, this is just the distribution of all our more than 40 mobile payment partners. As you can see, we have mobile payment partners mainly from Asia. And these are actually the leading e-wallets or the leading mobile payment apps in the regions. In some, we have, like, for example, you see from Korea, we have KakaoPay, NaverPay Toss, Japan, PayPay, or Philippines GCash. And we are going to see now how also is the distribution of these users that are coming to EMEA. I'm going to focus on the data of EMEA today. Yes. So how does it work this also in practice for Alipay Plus? So Alipay Plus is the interoperable or like providing the interoperability layer. Okay. So we connect the users that are the users of these mobile payment partners to the merchants that are served by the acquiring partner. So let's take Koreans as an example. Koreans are coming to London to pay with KakaoPay, their preferred payment method, and at a merchant that is at Covent Garden that maybe is served by Adyen. Okay, so again, we connect the users that are like paying, making the transaction. The transaction is routed through Alipay Plus and then settle to the merchant, to you, by your payment partner. Now, if we look at who are these Alipay Plus wallet users coming to EMEA. So we do see that Hong Kong users are like the fastest growing in 2025, followed by Koreans and Kazakhstan as well. So in Korea, the leading wallets are KakaoPay, NaverPay, and ToSPay. And we also see strong growth from Kazakhstan, users using Kaspi and HelloPay. But we also see strong growth from other wallets from Southeast Asia, like GCash from the Philippines or Touch 'n Go from Malaysia. So overall, this trend really highlights how EMEA is really attracting wider and more heterogeneous Asian traveler base. And this actually creates a big opportunity for you to go beyond the traditional Chinese market, right? Chinese is returning. Of course, here, like the Chinese travelers, as Sienna mentioned, is still the largest share. But if we look at the opportunities that are bringing the non-Chinese wallet users, we do see a strong growth and opportunities for all of you to catch these spending from them. Okay, so let's look more closely at the user growth this year. On the left side, we have the Chinese mainland wallet users are using Alipay wallet. And actually, we see continued steady recovery in 2025 with positive growth versus 23 and 24. If we look at the regions, actually, Southern Europe and Middle East and Africa are like leading in terms of growth. In Southern Europe, we do see this growth driven mainly by Italy and Spain. If we look at like the other regions, so France, Nordic, Benelux, DACH region, so Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and UK, they also have like growth versus previous years, but it's more like stable, let's say. But it's returning, right? Overall. If we look at like the Alipay Plus wallet users, so the non-Chinese users, we see strong growth across all EMEA between 2024 and this year, 2025. The Alipay Hong Kong users is really growing very, very fast. And can see on the first part in France. So we have huge growth of the user of Alipay Hong Kong in France. And then if we look at Korea, we do see huge opportunities in Italy and UK. The strongest growth is in Italy and UK. Finally, for the Philippines, big growth in the UK. But overall growth is becoming more diversified across corridors for EMEA. Okay, if we look at the Chinese wallet user distribution, for Middle East and Africa is like actually the region showing the strongest growth, especially driven by UAE and Qatar. And we still see France as a very strong contributor, stable, right? But very, very strong contributor. Southern Europe with Italy and Spain is gaining weight. And then we see UK and Germany, a slight share decline compared to pre-COVID. However, we do see that in UK and Germany, the volumes remain quite stable. So we see how like actually EMEA region becomes more diversified and the balance actually over time. Now, let's look at like also other new opportunities in terms of growing cities. Of course, we know the like capitals, traditional capitals like London, Paris, Milan, Rome, Barcelona are still like having a very positive momentum and are still like the preferred like let's say destinations. However, we do see that some other tier tourism cities are like growing performing very well with like triple digit growth. We see Edinburgh and Oxford mainly driven by students that are growing very fast. We also see a very strong growth in Copenhagen and the south of France, so Toulouse, Nice, Montpellier, or Cannes. Versailles as well in this year, it's been booming. So we see more like Asian travelers that are traveling outside of Paris to go visit Versailles, maybe also because of like they're seeking for more this local culture, local experience. And we also see some growth in Vienna and in Dubai. But again, also the major hubs like Milan, Rome, Madrid, and Barcelona show also very positive momentum. Now, let's look at the spending behavior for Chinese tourists and some of the spending patterns. So, on the left side, we can see that actually the ticket side is higher on Alipay. The ticket size is higher than pre-COVID years. But the annual spending, however, the annual spending is slightly below pre-COVID. However, you see on the right side that actually we are able to really recover this user spending during the peak season. So this is why I was mentioning earlier how important is to work with us and join our marketing campaigns that we are running during like really seasonal periods because they are very effective in order to boost ticket size and spending per user. If we look at the different categories for like user spending for Chinese tourists, again, traditionally, like they would come to Europe for like shopping. That was maybe the main purpose of the trip. Shopping for luxury, so luxury brands, department stores had a high share pre-COVID. However, we do see that now clothing has the strongest growth, and this is actually including the local brands. So Asian or Chinese tourists are looking for buying some local craftsmanships to like, some local brands, premium brands. This is actually gaining momentum. Then also food and beverage is increasing and transportation. Food and beverage also again, because they are really seeking for having this local food, local experience and elevated experiences. Jewelry and watches remain resilient over time and premium. We also see luxury department stores that continue, of course, to consolidate this high value spending, while services and duty-free support a more diversified spending mix. And this really reflects a shift towards like this experience-driven spending and the local spending that we've been talking about. Now, Chinese tourists are mainly coming from tier one cities. This is like was happening also during pre-COVID times. But we also see that tourists coming from other tier two, tier three cities in China are like slightly growing. If you can see on the right side, the blue, dark blue, represent tier one, and it's slightly lower. The share is slightly lower in 2025 than what it used to be in 2019. Regarding the user mix, okay, so the user mix has shifted towards younger generations. So we have the Gen Z and millennials that are really gaining relevance over time. But then we also see, so you would see, okay, the dark blue on 2025, we look at 2025, the dark blue and orange, Gen Z millennials are like really growing. But then we also see that actually the core spending age group, which is the age between 35 and 49, so that would be the yellow and blue, remains stable, okay, for us. But overall, the distribution is a lot more balanced and diversified compared to pre-COVID. Genders. So females are still like having the largest share. Females are women are like really like more willing to shop and spend. However, we see how like male share is also growing. So we see how the gender mix has become a lot more balanced over time. Now, probably many of you are familiar with the Alipay membership levels. So we have different tiers depending on the spending of these users and the activities that they have with Alipay. And we see that the user base is shifting towards a higher tier profile, which are the platinum and diamond members, so the gray and yellow on the chart. But we also see, of course, that the gold users remain very, very important. Okay, so some key takeaways just to conclude. We see that overall, EMEA attracts a broader and more diverse Asian traveler base, which represent a very good opportunity for all of you merchants and destinations for engaging with users beyond the traditional Chinese market, Chinese tourist. We also see that spending is becoming more diversified and is really expanding beyond luxury. And it's more linked to having this local flavor, local craftsmanships, local food, local experiences, unique experiences that these Asian users are now looking for. Purchasing power remains quite stable and is spread across more categories now. And also, our marketing campaigns really clearly influence and impact, are very effective for like boosting ticket side, boosting spending. So again, we invite all of you to work very closely with us on this. And finally, we also see that traditional destinations remain stable, while emerging markets, like especially in the Middle East and Africa region, show big growth. So this means that actually for you, destinations and merchants, like it's important to really combine the seamless payment experience, the also a relevant engagement and local storytelling, and we do believe that you will be very well positioned to capture this growth. Thank you very much, and I'm open to any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much, Alba, for that really interesting presentation and a really fresh look at how Chinese and other Asian travelers are traveling around the EMEA region and also spending while they're there. Just before we move on to the Q&A, I wanted to quickly let you know about a few more events and resources. The first one is that I can already announce Dragon Trail's first webinar of 2026, which we're holding on Wednesday, the 28th of January. We will be launching a brand new Chinese travel trade survey then, including exclusive data on, or extensive data rather, on Chinese New Year travel. Exclusive and extensive. Joining us at the webinar will be guest speakers from the China outbound and inbound tourism market, a B2B travel trade show in Beijing, who will share their own insights and their own survey findings from the Chinese travel trade, as well as expert tips on attending trade shows and working with the Chinese travel industry partners. Finally, you can find all of our past consumer and trade surveys, as well as lots of other free resources on the Dragon Trail website. Follow us on social media or sign up for our monthly newsletters for regular updates and webinar invitations throughout the year. And another thing to know also is that we have recorded today's webinar session, and we'll be emailing you later today with a link to that recording, as well as Dragon Trail's webinar slides and the contact information for Alipay if you'd like to request their slides as well. So now we do have a little bit of time for a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, please do send those in using the Q&A button, and we will do our best to answer them.